your art inform your activism? How do you blend the two?
Very naturally, I think. I can't help myself. Originally, I'm really from the north of England, although I was born basically in London. Well, actually now I live in Brooklyn, but we moved up to the north of England, Newcastle upon Tyne, when I was very young, and that's a very specific place to grow up because it's so different. You know, everybody speaks a language, Geordie, a dialect that nobody can understand, so it's a very strong place to come from. And a lot of great musicians like Sting and John McLaughlin, the guitar player, and myself, and the Animals, and people like that come from Newcastle. So I think the most amazing thing that happened for me was that I've been a musician for a long time, and for many, many years I didn't pay any attention to lyrics. I was definitely on the music side. You know, I went to jazz college, I played several instruments. It was the music that really carried me. I used to listen to a lot of instrumental music. Miles Davis was like my mentor for years. Once I began listening to lyrics, I realized that I hadn't a clue. So once I began writing them, it was very, very hit and miss. You know, I didn't really have a lyrical style. I think that in 2004 I went to the premiere of Peaceable Kingdom. You know, the movie had a great effect on me. I sobbed all the way through it. It also really turned me into an activist. But the thing that it made me, the most amazing thing that made me do was I went straight home. The image of the downed cow in an alleyway, and I went home and I knew, I mean my whole skin was on fire. You know, like that feeling when you just, that I had to sit down and write this song, and I had to write it good. What I wanted to do was write a song that would go to the world. So therefore I'm not preaching and yet showing, not telling, you know. And I made it ambiguous so that in fact, if you wanted to see it as maybe a child victim of war, or a soldier victim of war, or a civilian, so if you wanted to see it in human terms, it would still make sense. You know, and it began, in the dark I heard you cry, helpless I was standing by. You were down and you had fallen in an alleyway, forgotten.
In the dark I heard you cry, helpless I was standing by.
Now I knew I was writing from the image that I'd seen in film of the downed animal.
You were down and you had fallen in an alleyway, forgotten.
As I say, anyone could, that could have been a victim of war. And it was very important that I did this, and it was absolutely agonizing writing it.
Where are the souls behind the faces of those who let these sad disgraces happen?
Apart from the fact that I was weeping a lot when I was doing it, I had to keep the images completely fresh in my head.
My tears cry for forgiveness, 'cause in my heart I want no part of it.
So I think I went for a whole weekend and just sat on the sofa kind of weeping and writing and weeping and writing.
If there's a reason for man's cruel side, we'll be released there one day, but out of sight and mind, the blood red won't wash it all away. Muscle for muscle, you are innocent, and we are our souls beneath the skin together.
I wrote pages and pages, distilled it down to about 6 or 7 lines.
How do we go wrong this way? And surely they'll be held to pay
But then I knew that I had a song.
for making me suffer. And it's a poor man's greed, gets so wicked blind. And one day I dream we'll set this
activism therefore affected my art incredibly, because once I'd written that song, I thought I had a purpose lyrically. And it's changed my art incredibly. It's not that every single thing now that I write is to do with animal activism or the environment or the linking between the two, which they're totally linked. But it gave me this purpose that has grounded my writing and changed it totally.
Muscle for muscle, flesh and bone, your last breath won't be alone.
One of the first times I think we met was years ago when we were doing the foie gras protests in front of Fairway, and one of my favorite memories of you is when these French people would come by and start speaking in French and saying it's part of their culture, and you would just start talking, you know, telling them off in French.
Oh, well, my French isn't that good, but it did get a little bit better around about that time, because I have a house in the southwest of France which is actually foie gras central. I think one of the songs I might try and perform for you in a minute is called Walk the Dog, and the bridges of that song, the way I wrote that song was that when I was on the foie gras demos that we did over the space of a year in front of Fairway, people would come up and shout terrible things at us, you know, because you're pushing the buttons.
Right.
You know, if somebody's really doesn't care, they're not going to say anything.
Right.
So we were definitely, these were the people who obviously felt guilty.
Right.
And they would shout things like, "There's children starving out there," you know, like, "You're wasting your time on ducks," when there's, and another one would be, "What about the Iraqi war?"
Right, right.
And we would say back, "The Iraqi war is Monday, today is Sunday,
Right.
Duck Day." You know? And I used some of those comments, I wrote them all down, and I made 2 bridges out of the songs,
great.
and then wrote the song.
I'm gonna lay on the feather bed, asking road, take bread, eat the body and leave the head, as long as we're all fed.
You're standing on a demo line, you know, with a poster or a slogan or something. When, unless you're waiting for a bus, which isn't that long, do you have that opportunity to really
Sure.
watch people? And a lot of people, you know, walk dogs. Dogs are pets. Dogs they love. But here's a duck, you know, being forced fed to the point of incredible cruelty, and they don't care. But if you did the same to their dog, they'd probably kill you, you know.
Sure.
So that became very evident. So that's what Walk the Dog is about. Is just great, and it's really beginning to kick into gear for this year. A couple of years ago I was up at Woodstock Farm Animal Sanctuary for Christmas, and there was a whole group of us up there, and I seem to remember we were a whole group of activists, and it might have been Christmas Eve or Christmas Day evening, but whatever, we were all lying around watching the TV because we'd obviously eaten a lot. And this thing came on the TV about, because it was right in, well, not that it still isn't, right in the height of the Iraqi war. So, and it was Ask an Iraqi, and it was an Iraqi guy in America, who set up a booth like the Charlie Brown booth the doctor is in, and it said on the top, "Ask an Iraqi." And this was news. It was on the news because he was trying to, you know, make reparations between Americans just feeling, you know, like he was trying to say, look, we're human, you know, ask us how we feel, kind of thing, or whatever. Anyway, immediately quite a few of us just went, oh, ask a vegan, that would be really great. So we got a booth, we ordered one online. Jenny Brown had it specially made for Woodstock. It's a little bit plastic, it kind of doesn't quite fit together properly, but the great thing is that I can carry it over my shoulder.
I'd love to join you sometime.
So come on out.
Great.
That would be great.
Are there any artists or musicians who are involved in a social justice cause who you feel a particular attraction to?
Obviously I'm attracted to Paul McCartney because when I was 11 I had a picture of him on my wall, and that kind of stuff never goes away. And I just think it's so great, you know, that he was there at the beginning for me. And you know, I went to a concert a couple of years ago at Madison Square Garden, and I was just like, this is so awesome, you know. And it's just, he was on the front cover of the Peter Times, you know, and it's just great. So my life doesn't sound as if it's a song about animals or animal activism or anything, but it's about my life. And I had the fortune to go to Buenos Aires. My friend flew me there to work on her album. And Buenos Aires was crazy, it was colourful, it was dramatic. I got to meet, you know, incredible people and go out, and they never stopped partying. And so I put this into the song. But when it comes to the chorus, because it's my life, what I wanted to show was that at the back of my mind always is, I feel we can feed the world, but we never do the right thing. With what we already know could be the first helping. And so the point of the song is that now, since I started activism, that is the base of my life, no matter what craziness happens.
Because we already know the answer.
We already know, we have that knowledge. Human beings are very strange. We have the knowledge, and yet it's superstition, which is clothed in other things, which is something I don't want to get into, but you know, that and politics and everything else, and greed and everything that stops us from doing the right thing, you know, the knowledge that we are incredible, we have incredible knowledge. You know, there's one thing, I'll say it right now so you have it. I always say this, because I went to the planetarium and watched a film about Rover on Mars. If we can put Rover on Mars and make it do all these intricate, complicated things up there on Mars, and we had so much success with the Rover program. I mean, it's taking snaps, it's sending them back, it's doing all kinds of things with its little arms and everything, and it's going for much longer than they thought. If we can do that, then we can sort out how to feed the world. We can do that, we can sort out how to cope with you know, large groups of animals without clubbing them to death, or you know, how to live peaceably with the whole world. It's easy. It's just, it's you know, either not interesting to us or not for profit, and that's the shame. All right, my life.
Stepped outside of my life for a while. The day's suspended and I feel like a child. Walking slow, looking up, looking down. I'm like a child walking in this town. Not my own, not my own. Cars are crazy as we drive along. Taxi bumping over the cobblestones. It's hot down here and there's no AC. Hanging out the windows over Barrio Street. So not my own, not my own.
Maybe at Farm Sanctuary Woodstock, Farm Animal Sanctuary, or another sanctuary who have particularly touched you?
Yes, Olivia at Woodstock Farm Animal Sanctuary, she's gone now, but went up there to do the first June Jamboree, and they'd never done one before, so we were just kind of making it up as we went along. And I was sitting on a hay bale, and you know, she sat, the fence was here, and she just sat the other side the whole day staring at me.
She had a little crush on you, huh?
Whatever. Or she was saying, would you shut up and go away, please? But when I came over to this country, I performed with Joe Jackson for about 12 years live, did some albums with him, and then while I was doing that, I played with Laurie Anderson, who's still amazing. She's still doing a lot of performance stuff. I learned a lot from Laurie Anderson, and we made a film called Home of the Brave. And now, because I'm still friends with her, she picked me up from the foie gras demo one day because we were going to the movies. And she said, I'll come and pick you up, because she has a car service. And she said, what are you doing? Because I had all the bags with all the posters, and I gave her a flyer, and I said, I'm doing foie gras, banned foie gras. And she said, what's that? And of course, long story short, her and Lou Reed, who she's married to, do now show up for events for Farm Sanctuary. They and we're hoping to do a benefit this year.
Very
together.
great.
So
really cool.
So after Laurie Anderson, you know, I went to Nashville. I worked with Rodney Crowell, who was really amazing. I worked with Jack Bruce, who was the bass player with Cream. Phoebe Snow, who's an incredible singer, and then I joined Peter Gabriel's band and toured with him. And then after that, I kind of concentrated on my own albums. Okay, this is I Broke the Law, and it's inspired by the Shack 7 and a bunny rabbit in Hampstead, London, who I got to know, named Old Tom.
But oh, it's I broke the law.